going to move right into our next talk, which is April and Melody Ayres-Griffiths and CyanIIDE, a web-based Apple II dev environment. April and Melody, it's all yours.
Hello, KansasFest. So I'm Melody, and behind me is April, and we develop a number of things related to the Apple II. Just one moment. What? Okay, well, that was interesting. One moment. Apparently I have to set a security thing for Zoom. I didn't know that I had to. Okay. Okay, so we published Paleotronic magazine, or we did in the past, and it was a full glossy, full page, like glossy magazine. And part of that was developing the Micromate emulator, which was originally meant to emulate multiple systems, but we're so enamored with the Apple II that it's pretty much Apple II. Part of Micromate was part of Micromate's purpose was to see what one could do with emulators and interpreters to try to expand it to appeal to a broader audience than perhaps a traditional Apple II emulator would. And so it has things like 3D modes where it voxelizes Apple II output and so on. Part of that was we created a logo interpreter based on Apple Logo 2, which we made 3D. So it's Apple Logo 2, but it just has additional commands in it for, raising and lowering the front of the turtle and creating lines in 3D space. Moving on. Well, we split that off into its own thing called turtleSpaces, which is a full 3D environment. It's still compatible with Apple Logo 2, so you can start with Apple Logo 2 programs, but you can create games and so on and so forth. However, so like Micromate, turtleSpaces is cross-platform. It's written in Go and uses GLFW, so it runs on Windows, Mac, and Linux. But we were getting feedback from teachers basically telling us that it really needed to run on the web. So off we went. Why is Zoom? Zoom's very happily putting
controls. It should be able to. Okay.
All right. So it took quite some time, but we did actually manage to get turtleSpaces running in the browser. And so because while you can compile from Go to WebAssembly, it's obviously not as performant as a native execution is. And so this is neat, and it's Logo, and it's running in the browser, and that's nice, and teachers are liking that a lot. But we were wondering, okay, well, we've gotten this far, so what if we started creating some other things that ran in the browser, like BASIC or assembly language? Now that requires having an emulator running in the browser. Well, we tried to just put Micromate into the browser, and it didn't work very well at all. It's a bit well, it runs well on the hardware on desktop hardware, but it's a little too bloaty for the browser. So we ended up needing to rewrite it so that it could work better in the browser. I'm just going to, and so as a test, we did this, and this is interesting because this blew up. So and we're happy about that because we like the print shop a lot and such, and And so essentially what we've done here is we've taken the print capability out of Micromate and we've put it into this new emulator, which we call CyanIIDE. And CyanIIDE basically, it also runs in the desktop using a framework called Ibitten, but we're chiefly using it for the web at the moment. And so you can actually print out print shop documents on the site, and it downloads a PDF to your computer, which has become quite popular. And we've had 100,000 hits in the last week. So here's a shout out to Linode, our server provider, who is, happily, taking all this traffic and not giving us a hard time for it. Okay. So we will be making available the emulator, the CyanIIDE emulator. It works in an iframe, so we're going to make that available. We're going to make all of the code available. This is a WordPress site, so it's just embedded as an iframe into the web page, and so people will be able to stick the emulator into any other site that allows you to, embed HTML files. And so we're hoping that will allow for greater proliferation of Apple II programs across the internet. Where was I next? Okay. I actually have, for example, what's going on? I'm going to go ahead. All right, so what else can we do? Oops, can try not to end up weirdly Googling. Okay. Okay, so this is the emulator again, and in this particular case, what we've done is we've tied an editor to it that tokenizes and detokenizes BASIC on the fly. So let's give this a try here. So we have little brick out for AppleSoft BASIC, and so we've stuck it into our editor here, and it's all here. And then we go update, and then I love live technical demos. Ah, there we go. So yeah, that works, and that's great. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's pretty cool. So BASIC tokenizes, detokenizes, and that will be available soon online as something. I think it's something that one can work on AppleSoft BASIC programs and just inject them straight into the running machines, and integer as well. I've lost. Something is really not working properly. All right. So assembly. Okay, so we are working on a Merlin compiler, but it's not quite done yet. So what we've done here is we've set up CA65. Okay, and this is Dieter's Hackfest entry. So from 2018, and so we compile it, and it goes off to CA65, and then comes back, and then okay, and there we go. And so, as you can notice, CyanIIDE is actually cycle accurate graphics, unlike Micromate, which is not cycle accurate. But CyanIIDE is, and it handles most of these raster chasing demos fairly well. And so our hope is to be able to provide this also as a service in the next little bit, so that people can work on assembly language in the browser as well. All right. So what else are we working on? So all of this is really about Retrocoders, which is going to be a new magazine that we're going to be publishing that focuses on retro computing programming. So developing new games and that sort of thing, similar to Paleotronic. Well, actually, so it'll be around 60 pages per issue, full color, glossy. Some issues will be focused on platforms. Some issues will be focused on particular subjects. So, for example, with this one, text adventures, which are good because they're pretty cross-platform as well, even on the 8-bit. So you can, so that issue will be fun. We're also looking at doing a music coder magazine as well. And then for younger kids, primarily using turtleSpaces, at least in the initial issues, is going to be Codernauts, which will use turtleSpaces to create various artworks and games. We've optimized turtleSpaces quite a bit also over the past several months, so it's become quite practical for creating simple 3D arcade games, even in the browser, which we're quite proud of. So unfortunately, we didn't quite get to where we wanted to get because of, roadblocks that we ran into with regards to getting the emulation working, but we got the emulation working, and we're happy with that. And yeah, so I guess, are there any questions?
Okay, so let me scroll back through here. Personally, I want to say I saw your kitty, very cute. Isn't cyanide in apple seeds, or is that arsenic?
It's cyanide in apple seeds, yes.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
Is that why you named it what you named it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It just seemed like a cool edgy name.
On the print shop emulator, it seems to run at native speed. Is that a hard throttle, or could we get faster throughput on those banners if some limiter was turned off?
It's possible. I mean, it is sort of intended to. I mean, the print shop club is sort of intended to somewhat mimic the experience. So the sitting there with the printing and the thinking screens is I guess part of that. I mean, it's not. It could be possible to speed it up a bit. I mean, we'll see.
In part, it comes down to as well. what we found recently was Google Chrome's actually, in particular, has made some changes about restricting things. So yes, we can optimize things more and probably make it go a bit faster, but it depends whether or not they'll decide that's a bad thing if we were, for example, chewing up too much CPU on somebody's computer.
Yeah, they decided recently to only give like one thread of one core or something, and something changed in one of the recent browser updates, and we were all excited about how fast our stuff was working, and then all of a sudden we updated our browsers one day, and whoa! And so then we had to rework a whole bunch of stuff in order to actually, you know, doing real-time web assembly can be a bit of a risky business these days. But I mean, we're happy with it now. So
the Go code running in WASM?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's written in Go. Actually, and what Melody said was, so the same code base can compile to desktop versions for Windows, Mac, and Linux the way that Micromate did. But this also compiles without change for the browser as well.
Is retrocoders Apple only?
Oh, no. We'll be looking at a variety of different software platforms. I mean, our thing is the more exposure to different hardware and different platforms, particularly for younger people and kids, you know, that we can get them into, the better prepared they are, you know, for computing related careers down the road. Just to, you know, the more you experience, the more connections you make in your brain, and so on and so forth. So I'll be posting more details about all of these things in the CyanIIDE channel on the Discord, and we'll provide links tomorrow. Oh, there was one other thing. We do have a Raspberry Pi build of CyanIIDE as well. So people, okay, so the current build I think is just the 64-bit one.
Currently 64-bit. It runs on a Raspberry Pi 4, but I'm kind of looking at doing a 32-bit build as well. It should work.
Yeah, and so it uses command line flags to start, so you can integrate it into RetroPie or some other front end for that.
Is that retrocoders going to be digital only or print edition? Another Kickstarter?
Print and digital. I probably won't do a Kickstarter. I mean, I'll probably do a Patreon and just kind of collect, and then you know, assuming there's critical mass to move forward on doing a print job and do it that way. But I mean, I think it'll probably be okay. The each issue isn't necessarily, it's not like, anyway. So probably a Patreon on a periodic basis, like a per issue basis.
When do y'all find time to sleep?
Well, we were down in Australia during the first lockdowns down there last year, and so we didn't leave the house for 6 weeks at one point, and so we have plenty of time on our hands. But I mean, it's been good. For the turtleSpaces logo, we're doing a workshop on that at the Logo Foundation Summer Institute in the next couple of weeks, which will be good because that's getting it out with, you know, school teachers and that sort of thing. So we're happy about the logo. We're hoping to get the you know, BASIC and assembly and whatever other computer languages we can possibly get out there. In front of kids and you know, because we're passionate about that. So it's going pretty good.
And that really segues well into our next question. How are teachers using your tools in the classroom? Can you give some examples?
I don't have like a lot of concrete examples. I mean, there are some teachers that are basically doing simple, like fairly basic. We've got a number of examples and tutorials up on the turtleSpaces website. So they've been walking their students through them now that there's actually a web-based version that they can just load up on their computers, because it's not easy to actually get an actual software, like to get an actual application onto a school computer these days. But this fall, we're in the process of implementing private classrooms so that teachers will be able to actually, have private areas for their students to work on and share their projects without them being public or on the main server. So.
And that's, as I am a teacher, so as that's so important with all of the privacy issues. A lot of school systems are very particular about what they allow their students to use.
Yeah.
Are there any limitations you feel still need addressing in the CyanIIDE?
Well, we're still working. We're about 95% of the way there on Mockingbird support, about 90% of the way there on mouse support.
It's got smart port.
Yeah, it does have smart port. And joysticks. It actually works with a joystick in the browser, which I think might be unique to CyanIIDE in terms of Apple II emulators. So you can load up Total Replay and play Total Replay in the browser, which is neat. But we want it, yeah, but yeah, we want people to be able to embed their favorite game or a demo that they made or what have you into their own, web pages or even I was watching the Call Apple segment earlier, and the mech site that they've created. Maybe they can use CyanIIDE to embed all of the mech games into that site. That would be pretty cool.
Oh, excellent on the Pi 4. Yes, please on the 32-bit to allow it to run on the lesser ones. So you got some. How do students respond to text-centric languages versus graphical languages like Blockly? Do you find that text-oriented programming is a barrier?
Okay. Well, there's actually been a fair amount of research done recently. So LCSI still exists, and they've created a number of sort of progressive logo variants over the years, and their current one is called Lynx, which is a 2D browser-based coding environment, fairly similar to Apple Logo 2, and they've basically been positioning it as a way to transition from a block-based programming environment to programming languages such as Python. There has been some adoption with educators for that. It's logo is, or text-based logo, because they understand the turtle and those sorts of mechanics from things like Scratch. Then it gets them into typing in the code, and then they move on to something like Python, which is more sophisticated than that in some ways. I think Logo can be more sophisticated than Python if it's used right.
All right, let me see if there's anything we missed. Scrolling. Virtual paddles, joystick, keyboard. I think you might have said something about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you might have answered that one in the presentation.
And I think we're going to cut it a little bit short.
Yeah, I think I mean that's fine.
We got vaccinated a couple of days ago. Like we got our second Pfizer doses, and we're feeling a little rough today. So.
Yes, Team Pfizer. House Pfizer. Now, thanks so much. And I said this in the Zoom chat, but I know you, as a teacher also, things running on the web is so important, just because so many schools are switching to Chromebooks and iPads for their students, and you can't load a lot of software on those things. So that is amazing.
Great. Well, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you for your presentation.
Mm-hmm.